So firstly, there is no need to refer to a lot of resources. I think one resource and multiple revision, that would do. With the test series, we get an idea in which questions we can take this elimination risk, that calculated risk we talk about. I think that is the thing that we have to address in the exam hall only. So in that last minute, either you will be able to write it with very efficiently or you will not be able to do it. So rather than spending time on 10 marker much, I would concentrate on 20 marker, 15 marker first. Rectifying our mistakes, analyzing that you do not have to run over every resource. I think those are the things that one should keep in mind.
Hello friends, today we have one of the brightest stars from this year UPSC result, Swati Sharma. She hails from Jamshedpur. She has done her schooling from Army Public School, Kolkata, and she graduated from Women's College, Jamshedpur in Political Science Environment as a graduation subject. Talking about her UPSC journey, she gave her first attempt in 2021 and unfortunately she was not able to clear the prelims. But she did not lose hope and she gave second attempt. Again, she was not able to clear the prelims, and the third attempt, she had scored 17 rank this year. She is quite an artist and she involves herself in Mandala art whenever she finds time. Congratulations to you, Swati Sharma.
Thank you, sir.
How are you?
Fine, sir.
Okay. So how do you feel from an aspirant to an officer when you see your name in the list for the first time? How do you feel at that point of time?
So as many toppers had said that your world turns upside down. It is such a feeling. First of all, when the result speculation start, that is going to come in few days. So that moment when you have to wait for the results, that is a very sort of, you cannot calm yourself. But when the result came, I saw my name in the PDF. So it was a very enjoyable moment, very surreal movement, so to say, but overwhelming at the same time.
So the happiness is unbound at that point of time.
Yes, sir, definitely.
So and your hard work also paid this year, because you were for the first two attempts you were struggling to clear the prelims and you scored 17th rank this year.
Yes, sir.
Okay. So what triggered your preparation? Why did you ventured into civil services?
So it was a recommendation of one of my teachers who asked me to give this exam in near future, even if I join another profession. So he told me that I found you a suitable candidate for civil services. Do try this exam in future. So that is where it sparked me, that you can call an ignition point that was in my life. Then I looked into the syllabus and then it sort of catched my interest. Then I researched more about it. Then I got to know, okay, there's a position which can make a big impact in the society, and because I belong to a defense background, that discipline and to serve the nation spirit, that was instilled from childhood only. So I can say that this is what led me to civil services preparation.
Defense background, can you please illustrate on this?
So my father was in army. So he retired in 2014. So before that, I had moved to various places throughout India. So that showed me that India is such a diverse country. That also made me very adaptable to the situations. So I can conclude from that okay, fine, this is the place where I want to serve the nation.
So environment around you actually was like that patriotism was in your blood.
Yes.
Yes, and that's why that propelled you towards civil services. So what challenges did you face in the initial starting of your journey in UPSC?
So in my first two attempts, I prepared from my home only. So as Jamshedpur is quite a small town, it's unlike Delhi. So the first challenge that I faced is the issue of resources. There's a lot of information available. To jot down for which subject you have to study which resource, that was the first challenge that I faced. Secondly, I can say there was also a guidance problem. I had no mentor to tell me how to go through it, because UPSC syllabus is so vast.
Yes.
So how to cover it into 1 year, plus there is an optional subject. Despite belonging to a political science background, I faced several issues in answer structuring, writing, presentation. So these are some of the challenges that I faced in the beginning.
Okay. So did you make any preparation strategy, like this is how I have to proceed, these things I need to avoid, and How did your strategy change from the previous two attempts this year? Because you were able to score double-digit rank, and initially you were struggling to clear the prelims.
So for the strategy for the first attempt, it was very haphazard. So I did not had any strategy at all. I just used to take the book, read it, but I did not get time to revise it. After giving my second prelims, I would say I started to make a plan that I have to cover my mains syllabus first and optional particularly. So I did that. For the prelims, I could say that what changed in my third attempt is I wrote a lot of tests this time. Earlier, I used to rely on a single source. I used to solve the test, but I did not get time to analyze them. I did not do the PYQs nicely. I just used to solve them, but I did not see which themes are repeated, all that things that we take into account. So, sir, in the third attempt, these two things were the main transformation. Thirdly, analysis of mistakes. I think that is very important. In my third attempt, I could analyze which of my areas are weak, especially in CSAT, where I need to work, for which I later joined a course also, so that I could at least clear the prelim stage.
CSAT indeed has become a greatest hurdle these days in the prelims. So, can you please elaborate more on your CSAT strategy, because many students are struggling very hard to clear this cutoff in the CSAT.
So for CSAT, in my first attempt, I could not clear either of the
GS
and
CSAT
CSAT. In my second attempt, I could not clear CSAT.
CSAT.
So what I found that in the reading comprehension section and the logical reasoning section, I could fairly do well. So the math section, I was very bad at maths. So I took a book and I analyzed which are the topics which I can work upon. For example, number system, average, calendar. These are some of the topics which come repeatedly in UPSC paper. So I took them, I tried to solve them, but I was unable to. So I thought that I should join some crash course or something. So I joined one. I enriched my knowledge of solving this mathematics, and this is how it worked. Plus solving a lot of CSAT papers taken from the market of different institutes.
Okay, Swati, learning from your mistakes, specifically in the strategy, if you have to point out that these are the things that students should avoid while making their preparation strategy, what would that be?
So firstly, there is no need to refer to a lot of resources. I think one resource and multiple revision, that would do. So secondly, NCRTs, those cannot be avoided, especially for subjects like history and geography. They hold a lot of importance. So thirdly, analysis of your own weakness. That is very important. Which subject you are weak in, that helps you select questions in the real exam. So that can help to score better. So these are the three things which I can recommend.
Swati, I had seen that the students struggle with current affairs preparation. Generally, there is too much in the information is too much, and every information seems to be relevant to the new student. Yes. So, what was your strategy to sail through this ocean of current affairs, and is it important to make notes?
So for current affairs, I think the first thing that should be kept in mind is the UPSC syllabus. If government is taking steps to tackle terrorism, and terrorism is mentioned in internal security of GS3, so we should read it from that perspective. Secondly, I relied on newspapers plus VisionIAS monthly current affair, and later on during my prelims PD 365 and for mains 365. These were the sources for my current affairs only. I think more importantly is not to make notes but to understand what is happening
The
and
key
why
issues
is
of
of
those.
yes sir.
Okay, okay. Generally, there is a question that students generally ask: how important is newspaper when it comes to current affair, and how much time one need to devote to the newspaper? Because at the end of the day, they are not able to remember all the things they have read. And what sources are like you have mentioned PT 365, Mains 365, these sources are there. So, do they need to make notes from current affairs also, or these sources will suffice?
So for prelims, I specifically did not make any notes from the newspapers, but I did one thing. I used to take down some of the lines that I could find in the editorial section of the newspaper, and I would digitally save them in Evernote. What I did is I used them later in my mains preparation so that I could give another kind of introduction or conclusion that would differ from the other students, because everybody generally reads the same source. So you need to have a different answer structure or something, so to say. Secondly, I think in the beginning it is very bulky to read the newspaper. It took me around 2 hours to read one newspaper, but later with time it's around 45 minutes. So secondly, as you said, key issues, to identify them, it is very important. I did not make any notes from newspaper. What I did was just for the mains section only.
And when we talk to students, generally they say that more is good. There is a perception in the minds of the student that you need to read more, so as to sail through this examination. So what is your take on this? Do you think that more is good for this examination, or you have to be strategic, pinpointed, and you should define your boundaries while preparing different stages?
Sir, I think a lot of information is available. Every information, it is not humanly possible to retain also, and it is not possible to read also, I think. I think NCRT should be considered as the first resource that one should refer to. After that, one standard book would suffice. If there is a topic that you are unable to complete from these resources, you may Google it or find another book, but just for that topic. So for example, for every topic that is mentioned in the syllabus, I had just 1 or 2 page notes.
Okay.
For the mains section. For the prelim section, same, I used to, for example, history, I used to do them through maps. I would copy paste the map, download them, get a printout of them, and then mention there only whatever the important information that I believe can come in the exam. So I think jitne bhi concise notes, whatever we say, that would be much better.
In revision also they help a lot. Yes. So we'll need to talk more about different strategies that you have planned for prelims, mains, optional subjects, and last, the interview stage. So we had all seen that prelims have become a daunting task. To clear it, like you have also struggled in the first 2 attempts to clear the prelims. How did you prepare this time, which was different from the earlier time? First. Second, what popular strategies do you think are not suitable for the exam now?
So if I have to start with the resource or book list, it was the same that every other topper had recommended earlier also. The NCRT is one standard source, supplementing them with the monthly magazine. That was my strategy for prelims. What I changed is I analyzed that my certain areas are weak. For example, my history is weak, specifically the modern history section. So for those, I ensured that I do multiple revisions of that section. So secondly, about writing tests, whenever I used to do this MCQ thing, I did not used to read the question properly. So in this attempt, I made sure that I read the question very, with very concentrated, with full concentration. So thirdly, I can say that OMR filling during the exam hall, that is also an issue that I faced. In my second attempt, I had filled the OMR wrong. So that led to my negatives. So these are the few mistakes that I changed. And fourthly, sir, the confidence that should be maintained during prelims, mains, or be it interview.
So Swati, let's dwell more into the prelim strategy. These days, students have this inclination towards giving more tests, and they're revising less and they're going for more tests because they think that the more they give, the test they are going to give, the more marks they are going to get. And they land up in the zone that they are just giving the test. So how do you see this first? And students sometimes come to the mentors and ask that what should be the optimum number of the tests that the student should give. So how will you advise student on this?
So I particularly started with the sectional test, and I moved to the FLTs in February. I myself solved a lot of tests this year, but I think there should be a restraint at some point. There is no fixed number of tests that one should solve. I think it's important that we solve tests for analyzing our weak points. If I think one sectional test for each subject and FLTs, if around it is 20 to 25, I think that would suffice. But for my last month preparation, I made sure that I solved PYQs more than the test series that are available in the market. So also, I think it is important that after writing e-test, whether it's a sectional or FLT, it is important that you write down your mistakes. If you do that, you will be able to recognize which sections you have to work upon, and you have to revise that section more. So I think, sir, revising more is also a component. Both aspects should go in hand to hand, not just on one aspect should be focused more.
Yes, and generally we see that mistakes are in two, three formats. First is students make conceptual errors in the test. Second is they make silly mistakes that you had already pointed out, that filling OMR sheets, or they might not read the distractor right. Sometimes it's not correct, sometimes it's correct. Yes. And sometimes they read so hurriedly that they are not able to just read the full sentence of the option itself. And you'll see that the first part of the sentence is right, and then there is an and the next part is wrong. Yes. So students should focus more on decreasing these silly mistakes just so as to curb them, and they should focus more on enriching the conceptual aspects of the test. We've talked about PYQs, yes, previous year questions. So what should be the cutoff line in the, because UPSC is an age-old organization, yes, they are taking civil services from like we were not born when they started taking civil services examination. So what should be the last date of covering those PYQs, and do you have any strategy to cover those PYQs?
So for PYQs, earlier I used to just solve them and go back and sit in the exam. But this time I did what is, I analyzed the options also. For example, if there is a question on Harappan civilization and there are 4 options, only one of them is correct. And rest 3 options, I think they are of equal importance, and they can be replicated in after 1 or 2 years in some another form. So this is how I analyzed PYQs this year. And cutoff dates, I might not be able to tell accurately. What I did is last 10 days of the exam date, I used to solve this one.
Oh, which year? From which year one should start solving PYQs?
So I think 2013 one can start upon, but I this year solved way back to 1995. Okay. But I think so. If we have time, we can analyze.
We can go like 2013 should be the bare minimum, and if you have more time, you can go beyond 2013 also.
But so the pattern has changed, so we have to make sure that those matching ones, the pattern has changed, so yes, that might not.
This year the pattern was quite shocking for the students itself. Yes. So what will you advise to the next coming students who are going to give the prelims 2024? That how should they change their strategy considering the new pattern of the question which are asked in UPSC 2023?
Sir, I think first is attempting more questions. Okay. And with the test series, we get an idea in which questions we can take this elimination risk, that calculated risk we talk about. I think that is the thing that we have to address in the exam hall only. And so I think there should be calmness in your attitude, especially after we write GS. First shock we get in the morning only. So after that 2 hours ka time, usme people worry about GS and they forget that they have to qualify the CSAT also.
And that is the toughest part of the paper itself. Like the toughest part of the day. First, you are in the afternoon session and you have exhausted yourself in the GS paper 1 and GS paper 2. First, the paper is itself hard. And you also get into that zone. Your mind does not go into that zone of comprehension and solving mathematics and analytical, those types of things. How did you manage those things on that specific day?
So I think after GS, I ensured that I do not have to think about that paper first. So in the 2 hours, I tried to remain as calm as possible and revise some basic formulas that I would have written, or just look through the PYQs that have come, and then attempt the paper in the afternoon session.
So since we have talked about that there is a change in pattern, you might have seen that in the real-time examination hall. So how was your experience? Like how did you attempt that paper considering that the questions were not framed in the way you might have expected? Yes, and generally elimination method itself was eliminated. So how did you manage yourself in those 2 hours?
So for CSAT?
For both, for both GS paper 1 and GS paper 2, I think GS paper 2 was GS paper 1 was the first shock that the students got, and GS paper 2 was the second shock. So how did you manage the first shock itself?
So my strategy of solving the paper was I used to attempt 30 questions first and then fill in the OMR and then the next 30 questions. Like that I used to continue. I think in the first round there was very less questions that I could solve this time. But there are some common myths like if a sentence contains only, if those are generally wrong, but this time those were busted. So I think at that moment it is important that you apply your general studies ka knowledge there. So that will get you a sense of ki even if you are eliminating, you that has to be based on your common sense and the knowledge that you acquired for so long. So that is how I did it, and this time I tried to solve more questions. As I said earlier, for CSAT there was a shift from quant to RC and LR. I tried to attempt more as much as I can of RC. Actually, I attempted all the questions of RC despite the fact that there were some assumptions which generally are wrong, but I tried to attempt them. I think there should be a caution while attempting the questions of RC because the statements that are crux implied, those can be done easily, but the assumptions one, they are quite difficult because you don't know what UPSC is assuming.
And they are, to advise the students, I think they have to focus more on CSAT also, because generally students neglect, considering that this is just a qualifying examination. And when they land up in the real time exam, they feel that they're not able to qualify it itself. So they have to focus more on CSAT.
Sir, I think there are some topics which will come every year. For example, blood relations calendar. These are the two topics that I found these come every year. So I think those topics should be strengthened by heart so that you don't have to worry about at least those topics which were the easy ones or which might others have done well.
So after prelims, you have given the exam, you might have checked your answer key, and you might be in a dilemma that whether I'll be this side or that side. This happened with you because many of the students face this dilemma कि होगा या नहीं होगा, will be in the list or not. Those who are just clearing the CSAT.
So in my first two attempts, I had checked the key, so I did not get good results. So this year I decided not to check the key. If I qualify, the name will appear in the list. I waited. I think UPSC also decreased the time of publishing the results. So I enjoyed that phase. And after the results came, I started my mains preparation.
I think this is a good strategy because you get bombarded with so much of information and you sometimes go into the negative zone. And once those days are lost, you cannot retrieve them back.
So even if we try to study during those days for the mains, I think that is not an efficient study. Our mind is constantly in that thinking, okay, even if we are scoring good in the keys, it's not, there's no certainty that we'll score that same marks in the UPSC exam.
There is always a chance that there will be a variation.
Yes, sir.
Okay. So after prelims, how did you strategize your next coming 2-3 months for mains?
So I began with the low-hanging fruits, as people say, this ethics and essay section and optional particularly. I began writing, revising first of all, and I joined 2-3 test series, one for optional and one for essay and one for GS. Thereby I had my notes prepared earlier only before prelims. So I started to revise them, and that is how I followed it.
If you have to detail upon the various papers like GS paper 1, GS paper 2, GS paper 3 and 4, what were your specific strategies regarding these papers? Because GS paper 4, as you have rightly pointed out, is a low hanging fruit. If you prepare GS paper 4 well, you can get very good marks. And we have seen this year also that students got very good marks in GS paper 4 and in essay also. So, but you need to score average score in the other GS papers, GS paper 1, 2 and 3. So, how did you strategize specific GS papers? Like, so we'll start with GS paper 1. What was your strategy related to society aspects and history part? Because history is sometimes you see that the question come out of the blue and students are not able to answer them. And this year also students were not able to get good marks in GS paper 1 because of uncertain question they had really asked. So how how you strategize GS paper 1?
So I think GS paper 1 is quite static. So whatever knowledge that we acquire during prelim stage, it's an extended form in mains. So for subjects like history, I had referred to this NCRTs and some basic books. For example, R.S. Sharma, Satish Chandra, Vipin Chandra for history. For art and culture, I had referred to Nitin Singhania sir notes. So my books were those only. It's just I focused what kind of questions are coming from the history section. So for society, I had referred to NCRT only, and I used to Google the terms that are not present in the book and make notes out of them. For geography, same, I had followed NCRTs and GC Leon. So for the questions that are repeated, we get an idea, okay, we have the content for this, we just have to focus on the structure and presentation. But in some questions where we have no idea, as you said, I think structure and presentation, even if intro is touching the demand of the question for around 50 to 60% also, that could work along. For example, this year there's a question of peasants revolt. So in that question, there were some points that I was forgetting. So I made sure that I make a map at least where I could show wherever the peasant revolts were taking place. Similarly, in that Purvaya question of geography, in that question also I made a map showing how our monsoon works and mention which area is called as Purvaya area. So these things might work.
Do help. If you're not aware of the exact things, then you can touch upon presentation aspect to just wear off those uncertain aspects. Okay. And in GS paper 2, considering PSIR is your optional subject, so how did you manage GS paper 2 and your optional subject? Because syllabus is almost overlapping.
So I think the notes that I made for polity that I could supplement with my optional notes also. For the topics like governance and social justice, for those I had to make separate notes. For the IR section, similarly, the notes that I prepared for optional, those work. The difference that it makes is, I think, in the optional, we have to write in paragraph form, and generally people think that in GS also we can write. Many toppers have written their answers in this paragraph form, but if that paragraph is not addressing the demand of the question, then there is a problem. So in the GS2 paper, I attempted the paper point wise, but I ensured that I added some specific details. For example, as everyone recommend articles, putting out articles and committee's recommendations. Those were the things that I think make a difference from optional and GS2, and addressing the demand, because the demand in optional and GS2 they vary.
They are different. Yes, exactly. And coming to the GS paper 3 and 4, how did you tackle GS paper 4's ethics case study part? Because major portion of the marks is there in the case study itself. 125 marks you have, and generally we see that the themes are generally repeated. You will find a set of a pattern of the themes. So how do you, and reading the case study also is a task itself in the paper, considering you have to write the answer in that 3-hour format only. So how did you manage the case study aspect?
So in the ethics section, my section was much stronger than ethics. For in case studies, I particularly faced a little issue because I was unable to clarify the ethical dilemmas or issues that are present in the case study. So as you said, there are certain things that are repeated. So I followed the same approach. I went to the PYQs. There are many material present in the market where they provide some guidelines that could be followed. They mention some laws that can be used. So for case studies, I started with a small introduction detailing about the case study or representing the issue that is being faced, and then addressing the subparts. I think the use of ethical terms that people say is very important in the case study section. If you have to, if you are detailing about a dilemma or issue also, you have to give a little one-line explanation about it, and then supplement them with some ethical terms, for example, Gandhi's talisman or Rawls' theory of justice. Rather than just using the terms, if we provide a little bit of explanation of our understanding, that could help fetch some more marks.
How important are examples and quotations? We see that generally the students are preparing quotations, they are preparing examples, real time examples. So how effective are those type of things in real paper? Are you able to connect back and just are able to write those quotations and examples at that point of time?
So I used to attend these code-based questions in the last 10-15 minutes that I have left
Okay.
with me. I used to attempt series wise, then from starting from question number one, then the case studies, and at last I used to attend these code-based questions because at time we'll fail to understand the code. They are sometimes very vague. On in the code based questions this time, considering the demand of question, I had a little less content, so I focused on making flowcharts wherever if possible and addressing the both aspects of the quote. If a quotation is talking about women empowerment, I made sure that I also write the challenges that women faced and a small conclusion with a futuristic way forward. For the examples, I think they hold very much importance. During my feedback in the test series also, I used to get this feedback that your examples are not based on real life, so it might not work that well. So I think real life examples hold importance in
All
ethics paper.
important. Yes. So let me rephrase my question. I wanted to ask that generally students prepare certain codes that they are going to put in the ethics paper specifically. So how relevant is that strategy?
So if one can remember, I think it might work. I could not recall all the quotes. I did not prepare any quote specifically because I used to write my intro based on the demand of question there itself. So if one wants to put that should not, I think, compromise what the examiner really wants to ask you. I think explanation in your format is much better than just putting quotations and not explaining them.
So we'll dwell into GS paper 3. What was your approach to prepare GS paper 3?
So the approach that I followed for the other papers, it was same for GS3. मतलब for our topic, I made ensured कि one say 2 page notes are available. For certain sections, I think for example internal security and disaster management. For these sections, while reading the newspaper, we can take out examples which can make a difference in the real paper when you write. For the economy section, I think current affairs hold a lot of importance. For static topics, for example, agriculture, e-technology, the government schemes that are doing, the replies that are published in the PIB through Lok Sabha and Rajya Sabha, I think data taken from those sections, they can be of help. For science and technology, similarly, how is India faring? What are the challenges that India is faring at a global and at domestic level? These are the sections which one should consider while making notes for mains for GS3.
Again, once you clear the prelims hurdle, you land up into mains marathon where you need to write a full 20 questions in 3 hours. So in the prelims, you just need to recall, but here you have to, in the prelims, you just need to recognize. Here you have to recall and structure it in a format that it looks in a flow. It should go in a flow. So how did you manage your time in the mains examination? And what was your strategy related to answer writing beforehand that you have utilized and which has helped you in writing the mains answers?
So for answer writing, in the beginning, I focused on the quality of content. One of my peer recommended that for GS, you have to complete the papers, but don't think that only completing the paper would do. I think quality is very important, content is very important, plus the structure. It is very important because even if you don't know a question, if you present it in a manner with subparts in the body parts especially, then it helps you give a good impact on the examiner that okay, you know something about the question. So I think in the mains, before 15 days there is a vision abhyas that is being organized. I did that abhyas beforehand. It helped me analyzing that okay fine, my syllabus is completed at least once, so that gives a lot of confidence. In the real exam, what I did for essay, as everyone recommends, we should reach the venue before time. And for after essay, I think there's a lot of time for GS1 and GS2 because you have the whole evening. But after GS1 and GS2, there is very less time. You have at least, I think, 2-3 hours only where you can study. So that creates a issue during the mains exam. So for this, that is why I have made 1-pager, 2-pager notes that were very helpful to me. After which there is a optional paper. There is a gap, and that gap is like whether we rest or should we study. I think it is important that you take 1 day rest and then you get back to your optional preparation, because it holds a lot of importance in increasing your rank and getting good marks.
While students are preparing, specifically answer writing, they often refer to topper's copy. Have you ever referred to any of the topper's copy?
So for ethics, I had referred to Vishakha Yadav's ma'am copy because her ethics score was exceptionally good. For the optional also, I referred to Ishita Kishore ma'am's copy and Utkarsh Trivedi sir's copy. So even for essay, there are a lot of compilation of topper copies that are available in the market. Similarly, if we look in the topper copies, we get an idea of flow and structure that is to be maintained, so that our answer is consistent with the demand that UPSC is considering.
Swati, whenever we get into this mains preparation mode, generally we focus on two important things, that an essay and GS paper 4 to score more in mains paper. We have talked in detail about GS paper 4. What was your strategy for essay?
So before prelims, I had not written a single essay. So it was a challenge for me also to understand whether I'm able to write an essay or not. In the beginning, I could not maintain the flow in essay at all. I used to just write the examples. I did not explore the dimensions that could be done from the essay. I took help from one of my friends. So he helped me analyze that you are missing the flow and you're not exploring the dimensions. So first thing that for the essay that can be taken into account is selection of essay is very important. We have to select that topic which is more suitable for our understanding. We should not run behind. For example, this year there was a topic, not all who wander who are lost. That topic, many people wrote that, but I wrote the fourth one, inspiration taken from mundane things, something. So I think because I felt that I would be better able to address this topic. And secondly, exploring the dimensions of essay, that is very important. And I would recommend that at least we should write 7 to 8 essays during those 3 months, so that we are able to understand what kind of essay and how to manage both the aspects of the quote. Not only the positive side, but even if there is a criticism involved, that should also be addressed.
Choosing an essay is a very important thing that you need to take care of. But sometimes it happens that students choose one essay, and after writing that, and he or she realizes that this was not the essay he or she is supposed to write. So in this context, how effective is brainstorming? Like generally, there is a tendency few students follow that they brainstorm the topic first and then they go ahead on actually writing an essay. Have you utilized that strategy, and how effective it is?
So I think brainstorming is the soul of the essay, I would consider. For me, while selecting the topic, I used to read the topic at least twice or thrice. Then I used to do brainstorming at least of 2 topics that I could feel okay I can write. Then in the topic where I could find more dimensions, more examples where I can put on, and more understanding where I can put upon of my personality, whatever, though that topic I would be selecting.
So you brainstorm both the essays together and then you write both the essays together, or brainstorming first essay, writing that essay, and then going towards section 2.
No, sir, I think just mentioning the topic and exploring the dimensions during the brainstorming, that would do.
Section wise, or you do it like
No, sir, section wise.
section wise. Okay. So philosophical essays have become a trouble for the students. Yes. So you might also have faced this, that when you'll be preparing, you might have seen many philosophical topics. So those students who are starting their preparation, who want to prepare essay, what suggestions you will give regarding the preparation of philosophical essays?
So I think for philosophical essay, as I mentioned, understanding of the topic, that is the core. If there is a topic that is very much in air, but you are not getting at least the slightest evidence of the topic, you should never try to attempt it. Uh, so I think for philosophical essays, we often get an idea that okay, if we write just the theory of the philosopher, if we are acquainted with that topic, that would do. So I think that does not work out. That is the second thing to keep in mind. Thirdly, sir, I think as I mentioned, exploration of dimensions, that is very important in philosophical essays.
We'll talk in detail about your optional subject. You have scored one of the highest marks in PSIR. What led you to decide that PSIR will be your optional subject?
So my initial interests lied in pursuing law as my career. So the interest in political science was embarked through constitution and human rights, all those things that are present in the subject itself. It was the same subject that I did in my graduation. So my personal selection of PSIR as an option was due to my interest based in the subject. But so for selecting an optional, if one is switching from another background, it's just not should it should be based on the interest, but it should also be seen that resources are available for that optional. Test series is available where you can analyze your mistakes, and I think if you can get a mentor or somebody to guide you, because when you are switching, you have I think zero idea about that optional.
Exactly, you have to prepare from scratch itself. And generally, students come from engineering background and they take humanities subjects as their optional subjects. So the radical shift they see in the pattern they were approaching the subjects earlier sometimes make them feel that they might not connect to that optional subject, and they lose valuable time which they have in preparing the subject which they don't incline towards. And generally students go for optional which are in the air, like
Yes.
you know the flavor of the season they go for. How effective is to choose optional which are readily taken by the students, or one should stick to one's graduation subject, as you have rightly pointed out that you were going through a journey where you were reading about political science and international relation, and how effective it is that one should go with the unconventional subjects like technical subjects like electrical engineering and all those subjects which will require expert knowledge like mathematics, those types of subjects.
So many students have come to me in regarding to this optional selection after the declaration of results. I think if you are selecting an optional, if even if it's your graduation subject, but you are unable to address the demand, if we look upon the questions that are being asked by UPSC, because I think there is a slight variation where what we study in graduation, the books are same, but the content that we have to produce, that differs. If you are not able to produce that same content in the UPSC examination, then I think that is a problem. Also, if an optional is in air and you are selecting it, I think that should not be done. It should be based on interest, and if you are able to score well in that optional, that should be a thing.
What about technical optionals?
Sir, I have limited knowledge respect to technical options, but same thing I think that is
Interests do matter. If you have interest and you can cover the syllabus and previous year questions, you can go ahead with that. Okay, so you have scored one of the highest in PSIR. So how did you deal with paper 2 and paper 1? What were your strategies? Because many students take PSIR as an optional subject and they might see you as one of the, you know, the star in the air which they aspire to. So would you like to offer them certain strategies to tackle paper 1 and paper 2 in PSIR?
So I would like to start with my strategy, book list resources that I followed. I refer to one institute's notes. That was my sole source of starting the preparation. Later on, I had read some books, for example, O.P. Gauba for political theory. and Subrata Mukherjee for Western Political Thought. Similarly, for the dynamic section, there are certain books, for example, Global Politics by Haywood. And I had also referred to some IGNU notes, but I think those become a bulk of material to, concise. So I think you should be very concise in the notes. The understanding of each topic, at least writing one question beforehand, it is also important. So generally in our paper 1 and paper 2, the part A is theoretical. So I was good at that section, so I used to attempt more questions from that section. The part 2, it is quite dynamic, and the content that is available is generally same, and it overlaps with that GS2 section also. So you cannot produce what you have written in GS2 exactly in the optional paper. So what I did for that is, whenever I used to read any editorial that was consistent with the UPSC syllabus, I used to digitally note down in Evernote, and I used to later reproduce it in my test. Also, sir, in the paper 2 part B, that is India and the world, where we have to deal with how India is faring in the international politics. For those sections, I think ORF sites can be of great help, and its sites, those also I have referred to. So in the optional, it is important to see question selection as prelims, mains, whatever it is. I think optional question selection is very important. Which section you are strong in, you should try to attempt more questions from that section. Lastly, I would like to say, I used to attempt the paper in the manner of doing question number 1 first, because when your copy is opened, I think the first look.
First impression, last impression.
So I think that is very important. Then I used to do question wise, and I used to attempt the part B compulsory question in the end, because those are the 10 markers, and those come in form, either you definitely know the content about it, or you have a little idea about that content. So in that last minute, either you will be able to write it with very efficiently, or you will not be able to do it. So rather than spending time on 10 marker much, I would concentrate on 20 marker, 15 marker first.
Okay, very good strategy, that you have to cover those areas first where you can score better.
Yes.
Or more marks. Okay. So generally there is a perception that PSIR is useful both in GS paper 2 and interview, because lot of questions are asked from IR segment. So how far do you agree with this, and what is your experience regarding the PSIR subjects and its influence on the other domains of UPSC examination?
So I think yes, it helps a little, because you cover whatever is going on in current. But I think optional has a separate role during interview. If somebody has a sociology optional, questions might come from sociology also. So I think rather than focusing on which optional to take to for interview, it is important that you cover the current affairs that are present at that matter. For example, even if I was not a student of PSIR, the questions that I was asked from PSIR were related to China-India relations, Maldives issue. Those were in news at that time. So I think that would help if you cover the current affairs.
So Swati, how effective was test series?
So for GS and optional, I think test series are very important. Especially for my optional, I could not write any full-length test before the actual mains. I would recommend that at least we should write one full-length test for each paper, because that helps you get an idea of time management that we have to do in actual exam, which can have a major impact in the actual mains.
So Swati, you have cleared prelims, mains, then you get a call for interview. So did you prepare specifically for the interview stage? How do you prepare? And what is the importance of DAF? Because UPSC asks you to fill a detailed application form, and candidates generally panic in filling up their details, and sometimes they fill those details which they don't find very honestly, they don't fill sometimes, because just as to impress the interview panel members. So what is your take on this, and how is your experience of UPSC preparation specific to the interview stage?
So if we have to start with the detailed application form, there is around a 1 week or 10 days provided to fill the DAF. Many students fill it within the first 5 days. I think for the people who are appearing for second or third time, for them also, I think if there is a problem in the interview stage, I think we need to correct it, because it's the last stage, and coming back from interview then to prelims again, that is the most disheartening thing in the preparation.
Exactly.
So for the DAF, I think the section 7 that is said related to hobbies leadership, that is I think of more importance, because many questions come from that section. But with the time, I have seen questions from that section is also decreased. What I'm hearing from people's experience, they are more interested in detailing with the current affairs and the knowledge of subjects, for example your optional subject particularly. But those sections I think should be filled with very much of honesty. Even if we have one hobby, we should mention just that one hobby. There is no need to overburden it with 5 points or 6 points. I think 1 or 2 would suffice. Also, if we are unable to fill DAF correctly, I think we should seek help of anybody that can find who has expertise in knowing about the personality or such things. So the schedule came on 19th of December 2023, and my interview was in first phase and it was on 15th January. So I was quite panicked ki not even 1 month is there. How am I gonna prepare? Because after mains you lose touch with the subjects for the gap of around 2.5 months till the mains results are out. I even could not read the newspaper at that time. So I thought ki there is current affairs that is to be covered. Secondly, to know a state, that is very important, because I had not lived in Jharkhand for a very long time, and I had not taken the liberty to know the state also. So that was an issue for me. So these are the some of the issues that are faced. But I think with time, if we find questionnaires around, for example, for my state Jharkhand, I had referred to a questionnaire where there was topics dealing with socio-political economic aspects. So that becomes quite easy. And current affairs, for the current affairs, the same approach that can be of help in doing the interview preparation. But during interview, I think it is very important to read newspapers daily, because those are the questions that generally come in the news interview.
Okay. So covering newspaper and focusing on your state and optional subject is
And
important.
detailed application
Detailed
form.
application form itself. So you want to share your experience of the interview day, like you'll be sitting outside and you know that you have to go inside, and certainly n number of things might be coming in your mind कि क्या होगा कैसे होगा. So how was your experience of that interview day? 5th of January, I think.
15th of
15th
January.
of January. So what happened on 15th of January?
So in my mocks, I used to get this constant feedback that I look a lot nervous and I should calm that down. So that was the feedback that I tried कि उस दिन face पे तो at least ना reflect हो. So 15th of January started like any other day, but in the brain and heart you know that it is the day you have to perform well. It can change your life entirely. But so in the morning you feel like you cannot even swallow a bite. My session was in the afternoon session, so it was a very difficult time to manage the morning. So I started with the newspaper. I saw whatever is going on, as I have a defense background and 15th January is the army day. So I was expecting questions that maybe from that area questions will come, but none of them came. So you start speculating कि okay ये पूछ सकते हैं वो पूछ सकते हैं, anything can come. But I think we should not do this. Whatever there is, it will happen. I don't think they will judge you based on the questions that you are not able to answer. I think the board members are very cordial, as everybody speaks of, and they understand that it is not humanly possible to remember everything at the same times, and at times even if we know some fact, we generally get blank. So they understand this thing. They just test us for the stress handling ability that we have, and what is our way of communication with people. I think these two things matter more than just showcasing your knowledge. And one very important thing, I think we should not bluff in front of them. Whatever there is, I think we should be very honest.
Honesty is the best
Yes,
policy. Okay, so you talked about stress management. that the interview itself is checking. I think UPSC examination also, the process itself check how much stress you're able to cope up with. So did you feel stressed in the examination process itself, because it took around 2 to 3 years for you also? So what was your strategy to cope up the stress?
So after you don't get selected in your first attempt, I think first attempt is everyone's dream to get selected in first attempt. So that time I knew somewhere that my preparation is not up to the mark, so I was not that disheartened. But after my second attempt, I was like, okay, first stage ही नहीं हो रहा है. So the thing is there, but I think for stress handling, my family's support and my friend circle that I had formed, a small circle of 5 to 6 people, they helped a lot. I mean, they tell you ki okay, you don't have to stress. We are also preparing. One day we will excel. That thing is there. And secondly, it's important that rather than stressing on the thing that हो नहीं रहा है कुछ, if we concentrate on analyzing our mistakes and setting the targets, completing them, this will give a lot of confidence to reflect in the real exam.
Swati, many students are sometimes they fall in the first stage itself. The second times, some fall in the second stage itself. Some are giving repeated interviews, yes, but still they are not able to make up to the list. What will be your advice to them?
Sir, I think my advice will be same. Correct resources, limited resources, multiple revisions, uh, writing tests to analyze the mistakes and correcting them. I think that is the thing that worked out for me. It might work out for other people as well. And sir, confidence, I think that is
Confidence
the
really matter in all the stages of the
yes, sir.
exam.
It helps you remain calm. It helps you showcase, even if you do not know anything, you're able to do at least something that might help you score well.
So Swati, generally students are interested in some plan B also, and some students go with the burn the boat strategy, this way or highway. So what is your advice? Should they go for plan B, or one should specifically focus one should focus all energies on plan 1 only, that to get into the civil services?
Sir, I personally had no plan B till date, but it might, what I would have thought of plan B now if I would not have been able to clear this in my third attempt. But sir, I think it is upon people's choice. Some take the road of doing this exam till the attempts are exhausted. But even if we do that, it is important that we rectify whatever we are making wrong. Secondly, in the second path that people go with plan B, I have seen many people this year also who have got selected working professionals. So I think that can also work if we are able to do it, balance it with our preparation. So I think, sir, it's the personal choice that one has to take, looking upon their own abilities.
So Swati, it was nice interacting with you. Any final words of wisdom that you want to share with the students who are watching this session at their home?
So I believe trusting the preparation, the efforts that you are putting in, it is very important. Throughout my journey, I used to lose hope a lot of time. My parents were the constant support, and I looked upon them whenever I used to lose hope here at Delhi. Okay, some people are waiting for me to excel in the exam. I think, sir, trusting the preparation, many people blessings are there with us. Rectifying our mistakes, analyzing that you do not have to run over every resource. I think those are the things that one should keep in mind, and targeting the schedules and completing them, that is another important thing that should be kept in mind.
Thank you, Swati, for sharing such an insightful information, because generally you have passed through that path where many students aspire, and you have reached the destination also. And it's very good that honestly you talked about the hurdles that you have encountered, your strategies that you have followed, and the way the student should prepare. And I would like to thank all the viewers for listening this session patiently. Hope you have learned good things from this session. You can pick and choose various strategy that Swati has pointed out, and you can utilize those in your own strategies, as you have to make your own path So choose and select wisely. As it has been said in Rigved, let the noble thoughts to come from all directions. Stay tuned with VisionIAS for more detailed conversation related to exam and preparation. All the very best.